Hi, today we'd like to talk a little bit about oil spill management and how we employ a system in oil spill management that is used in many emergency response scenarios all around the U.S. We call this system ICS, or Incident Command System, and NIMS, which is an umbrella kind of a term, is the National Incident Management System, of which ICS is a part. ICS is something that's used by the Coast Guard, by EPA, by firefighters as they fight wildfires out in the West. It's an all hazards kind of a management tool. It represents the best practices that we have in emergency management. It started out with firefighters out west, and today it's used if we have anything from an earthquake to a hurricane to an oil spill to even a pandemic disease. The same kind of management system can be used. Even for terrorism, it's a part of our national incident management system and program. Here we can see a spill response exercise where the folks that are trying to manage overall spill response would come together under the umbrella of the Incident Command System. This slide talks a little bit about the different individuals and groups that are part of the Incident Command System. Up at the top, where this shows Emergency Response Manager, in many of the federalized or large spills that we might have, we have what's called the Unified Command. And the Unified Command is represented by a responsible party lead, a federal lead individual, usually if it's an oil spill on water, it's usually the Coast Guard, and a state lead. And here in Texas, it would be the Texas General Land Office. It would be the state lead on an oil spill. Underneath that, we have team leaders, we have deputy team leaders, and we have individuals that support operations, planning, management, logistics, and finance and administration. Some of the essential elements of ICS are that we want to use common terminology. We don't want to be creating new terms for different folks. We want to have a program that involves the transfer of command from one leader to another when there's a shift change, when there's a crew change, that kind of thing. I mentioned unified command already. We want to have management by objectives. We know what we're trying to do, we articulate that, and the whole organization is brought together to support that objective. It's a modular organization where we can shift folks in and out, and they know their role. If they are a planning person, they know what they're supposed to be doing. And if one person leaves after they've worked 30 days straight, or they've worked their shift, then another person steps into that role. That's what we mean by a modular organization. We have incident action planning, manageable span of control, where not more than 5 people, sometimes up to 7 people, report to one individual. If the organization grows larger, like it does in some of the larger spills, when, for example, with Deepwater Horizon, we had about 78,000 people that were mobilized. And in that particular situation, what we had was, as the organization grew larger, we created more managers in the middle. If we use ICS in its best advantage, what we have going on is a reduction in the amount of replication, of people stepping on each other's toes, because everybody's got a path, a lane that they stay in. And there's not much duplication of effort. We can optimize our assignment of resources, that kind of thing. There is accountability, there's good information management, and ultimately good logistics, so good deployment of resources, and in the end, realignment of resources after we finished up an effort. I mentioned unified command. We have the state, the federal, and the responsible party lead in unified command. This means that a triumvirate of individuals will come to make the critical decisions that are necessary to effect the emergency response cleanup. Talk a little bit about the role of the incident commander. He's got the responsibility for ensuring that every action out there going on is considering the importance of safety. He's going to be pushed and tugged by many politicians and leaders to get the job done quickly. It's important that he continue to do it efficiently, professionally, and as safely as possible. The incident commander is going to be the one that distributes information a lot of the time to the public, to the internal and external stakeholders. He's going to establish and maintain the liaison with other agencies. In many cases, each of these roles is being handled through in association and assistance with his staff. He does delegate the authority sometimes to, for example, to the public information officer to do the outreach to the press and local community. The incident commander is basically the top of the incident response organization, but he does take lead and direction from the executive administrators and officials within the agency that he works for. Here we see the command staff. The incident commander is leading the public information officer, the liaison officer, and the safety officer. Each of them reports directly to the incident commander or to unified command. What we call the general staff is those folks that are in operations, planning, logistics, and finance administration. ICS is really a key to any emergency response activity. If we plan and execute, document, and make sure the supplies are there, with established command structure, it's going to be a much more efficient recovery. As you look to the future, consider the idea of this as the way that ultimately, if we have a hurricane along the coast of Texas or Mexico, this will help us recover more quickly. If you'd like to know more about ICS, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has a series of programs, training that you can take. Each one of them takes a couple of hours. You can actually get a certificate of completion. You take them online, and they are fantastic programs. I'd recommend starting with ICS 200 and ICS 700, and then there's also ICS 100 and ICS 800 that are great programs to take and get professional certification in. Every firefighter, every emergency response organization member, every nurse, every doctor, every fireman, every police officer should take those programs. Again, that's it. FEMA, FEMA.gov, G-O-V.